Like I made my friend cry. I've never felt so stupid or rude and just, oh, you guys, like I said, if I go back in time and undo that, I would. More and more lately, and maybe it's just my feed on Instagram and TikTok, but I've been seeing more conversations being had about people not wanting to have children and talking about the child-free lifestyle. Recently, I saw a video on Instagram from my good friend Chelsea Fagan explaining why her and her husband don't want to have children. And I also saw a video bubble up. It was an interview with Seth Rogen where he was asked why he and his wife have decided to not have children. And I found these conversations interesting. I'm glad people are having them. But what I found even more intriguing was the comment section. Now, there were kind of two components to it. The first being people in that child-free lifestyle who've decided for them having children's not something they want to do. They felt kind of, I don't know if it's like vindicated, but more just like seen and heard and like, yeah, that's why, that expressed this, or here's my take on this, and like offering their own perspective. Which makes sense, right? People are talking about not wanting children. People who also don't want children are like, I agree, or here are also my thoughts on this. On the flip side, and I found this even more interesting, was I saw people who have made the decision to have children, which is wonderful, kind of express a lot of anger or irritation, and some even feeling like they needed to further explain or prove why they decided to have children. And to me, that was just very interesting, or maybe even a little bizarre, to be honest. But I really went deep on these comments because I found it really intriguing, because I personally, and Sean as well, have been in a lot of these conversations. If you don't know, Sean and I decided before we even got married that we were not going to have children. And so I've been part of conversations where people ask, hey, when are you guys going to have kids? And when I say, oh, that's not, not something we're going to do, then I get a lot of questions about it. Oh, really? Oh, interesting. Okay, well, good for you. Or they'll have, they'll ask like, well, when did you guys decide that? Right? We get a lot of those types of questions, those types of wondering. Sean and I have been together for, like 15 years now. And I met him when I was 24. So people have always thought, I guess, or assumed that we would have children. And we're not going to. And I think one of the most interesting factors for me in these types of conversations is that I was the one who was mainly asked about this. Within our first year of marriage, I cannot tell you the number of conversations I had with family members and friends, and even people who I don't even know well, like what I'd call like peripheral friends, or just like colleagues, people that I bump into every once in a while, asking me when we're going to have children. And I was actually really glad to see Seth Rogen get asked about it, because I was like, welcome to the club. Like, I don't know why I felt like as a woman, I was pressured more about this, as if I'm like the decision maker. And Sean and I, like I said, we made the decision years and years ago. And I have a bunch of notes. I don't want to miss anything here. But overall, in a way, during all these conversations, I felt like I had to fight to help people understand a decision that Sean and I had already made that had nothing to do with them. Our decision to have children or not is one that we make, because are these people who are asking me, because I've been pressured, oh, you should at least just have one. You don't know the joy of having a child. And I'm not saying that their points aren't valid. I'm just saying, are you going to be the one who is pregnant for 39 weeks or more maybe? Are you going to birth this baby? Nope. Are you going to pay for all the costs that come with the baby? Nope. Are you going to come to my house and raise this child? Nope. Are you going to dedicate your time and your energy and lose sleep in order to bring another life into this world? Nope. Yet you're going to sit here and try to tell me that those are things that I have to do. And I found myself getting really frustrated with this kind of conversation, because why should I have to talk to someone who's not part of my family and relationship about a decision that only affects Sean and I primarily, right? So I got really agitated, and I would shut it down. I'd be like, nope, and I don't want to talk about it. It's already a decision we've made, especially if people were like closer to me. Like, even my mom wasn't like this, but let's say she kept asking. I'd be like, stop asking me about it. It's not going to change anything, right? And so I understand why the comment section gets heated like this. I think from the outside, if I didn't remember that experience, because people don't ask anymore, we've been together too long, and I'm almost, 39, I'll be 40 this year. I'm exiting my potential time. So I had to remember what that was like. And people get agitated because it's personal, right? It's a personal decision. But I think the one thing that I keep going back to is that our decisions to have children or not have children is no one's but our own. Like the people that it would actually impact, meaning you and your partner. Or if you're wanting to become a single parent and that's something you're looking, then it only affects you. And if this is something you haven't decided to, or you're deciding to freeze your eggs, right? Then let's move into what I think is another important piece is how difficult it can be. Because I have tons of friends who've gone through issues with infertility, whether that means difficulty getting pregnant altogether, trying multiple rounds of IVF, going through and surviving multiple miscarriages and the grief and the pain that comes along with that. All of that hasn't even been discussed. And even the fact that people might ask Sean and I if we want to have children, they don't know what's going on with us. And we made a choice to be child-free. But let's say I wasn't able to get pregnant for one reason or another. Do you think that's really something that I want to talk about with someone I just met, or someone that I only half know, or something I want to talk about at a cocktail party or an event that I'm at? No. I made the horrific decision because I thought I knew the whole story and I didn't. And I wish I'd go back in time and take it away. But I remember years ago, it was like a friend of a friend. And I had known her for a really long time. And she had been with her husband for a long time. And I had never heard her talk about wanting kids, and people were talking about not having them. And she's like, yeah, we don't have them either. And didn't act upset about it. So the facts that I had, although not the full picture, I thought meant that she was like Sean and I. And so I said something offhanded about like, isn't it nice to be child-free or something? And she immediately started crying. I didn't realize they'd been struggling with infertility. She desperately wanted to be a mom. She just never told anybody really about it. I shouldn't have said anything. And so I think the layers of this conversation are so intense and so personal that I really encourage all of us to be careful how we engage with this. And honestly, until we already know because someone has offered up information, let's not make any assumptions. And as a child-free person, I don't feel the need to defend my side. And I also am happy for my friends who want to have children. It can go both ways, and both are fine. I don't think either of us need to defend our decisions, because the main point that I want to make is that decisions that we make about our lives and our bodies are ours to make. They don't affect anybody else. If Sean and I have kids or don't have kids, how does that affect you? Maybe you don't feel like you can relate to me as much because you're a mother of 5 or you're a mom and that's like that's a big definition, a big point of who you are. That's fine. But that still doesn't mean that I have to do something to, assuage your anxieties or make you feel like you can connect with me. Does that make sense? For some reason online, I feel like people want to get into each other's business and push decisions that they made onto others. And part of me just feels like, can't we all just like live and let live? If you want to make a decision that's best for you and your family, make that decision. And the less we try to encroach on each other's decision-making process, I honestly think the healthier this kind of conversation can be, because we don't know the full story. Unless this is someone we know deeply, we can be making a lot of painful assumptions that could lead to them. Like I made my friend cry. I've never felt so stupid or rude and just, you guys, like I said, if I go back in time and undo that, I would. So I just encourage all of you to pay attention to what we say and what we do. And maybe the therapist in me is like, if you feel like you really need to like aggressively defend your position, where is that coming from? Because in the therapist space, to me, that's like an overreaction. Remember, we talk about overreactions and how they're given like a bad rep. Like, if you say you're overreacting, it's like a judgment. No, an overreaction, from my perspective, is like a little flag that's like, hey, something's going on here because I'm having an intense emotional response to something that really shouldn't be emotional, right? So why? And I think that why could give us a lot of answers, but if we dig deeper, it's because it's a personal decision that's between you and your partner or you alone. You get to make it on your own, right? It also could be rife with grief and pain and difficulty. Or maybe we are struggling with the decision ourselves. And that's not something that we should put onto other people. We're responsible for ourselves and our own actions. And if you're having a hard time, that's okay. But that doesn't mean we need to spew hate or agitation online or try to prove to someone else why our decision to have children or not have children is the right one. Because each of us get the opportunity to make choices for ourselves. And that's where it kind of should sit. And in summation, because again, I know I'm going to get a lot of comments. They're like, how'd you guys decide not to have kids? Or why is that the decision that you made? Again, not that it's anybody's business, but I feel like it's maybe helpful in this conversation to share that. And Sean and I, before we even got married, decided that having kids was just not something that we had desired for many reasons. Number one, we are pretty selfish with our time and what we want to do. We work a lot. Even getting a dog, even getting little Roxy girl who's right there, was a huge decision for us. And honestly, as much as I love her, she's kind of a buzzkill. Like, we used to just roam about, free, footloose, fancy free. Oh, you want to, we're going to London I'm giving a talk. Oh, we want to stay an extra week or two? Hell yes, I do. We can't do that now. We got little pepperoni over here. She needs us home and we want to be with her and I miss her. And so our decision to not have kids came with the fact that financially, time-wise, it's like sleep-wise, energetically, it just wasn't something that we wanted to do. I'm actually very selfish about my time with Sean. I'm stingy about it. I want more of it and I don't want less. And I know children come with a big dedication of time. I also consider all that it takes to raise a child, and God bless the parents out there doing it. Some of my girlfriends are like in it thick with little ones. I don't know how they do it. It gives me a deeper appreciation for my mom, I tell you what. But it's just not something that I desired. I don't feel like it would add anything to my life that I want. And I know that's hard for people with children to understand, but we can both make different decisions and we can both respect those decisions and respect each other. And I think that's just what I hope to hear more online and see more in conversation, is this mutual respect for differing opinions and differing backgrounds. And I've heard from many of you that you're afraid to have kids because of abuse in your past. And you're like, I don't know if I'll be abusive without realizing it, or I don't want to pass on my PTSD symptoms to my child. Now, I'm not saying that that we have to make that, we can't have children if we have that in our past. I'm not saying that at all. But I've heard from some of you that has also, guided the decisions that you've made. And we just need to respect that different people have different views. And it's okay to want children and to not. And bringing up that conversation with people we don't know well could be hurtful because we don't always know the full story. Anyways, I'm happy to answer more questions if you have them about my own process or my own thoughts. But overall, let's just be caring to each other and understand that some people might want kids, some people might not. It has nothing to do with us. We can all be free to make our own decisions. But I'd love to know your thoughts. Do you think I'm being too short-sighted on this and I'm not seeing the full picture? Do you think everybody should have kids or nobody should have kids? Or what are your thoughts about this? Why do you think people are being so rude and angry and disrespectful in the comments? I think it's because it's an emotionally charged subject and not all of us have processed through our decisions to make it. But I would love to hear yours because I definitely felt like I was early in the game of not wanting them and not people weren't talking about it as much. I actually have an aunt who they didn't have children either because they didn't want them. And I talked with her a lot at the beginning of Sean and I's relationship because I was like, how did you deal with it? And she's like, I just kept telling them, like, if you wanted to have it and raise it, then sure, but I don't want to do that. And she's like, yeah, I was definitely the odd man out. Like, there's nobody else in her life she's close with who decided to not have children. And it's difficult and it shouldn't be because it's a huge decision. Having a child is such a privilege and an amazing opportunity, but also a very exhausting and time-consuming one, and it's not something that we should force upon everybody. But what are your thoughts? I could ramble on about this forever because obviously I've been having conversations about it for over 15 years. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. Happy to talk about this more, but let's just stick to decisions that are ours and know that we don't have to force our decisions on anybody else. Okay? Have a good one. I hope that was helpful. I will see you soon.